Devron.
I'm Lennon.
Bro, what? I thought
We just talked about this.
We just talked about this.
It's staying in. It always
Alright,
stays in.
whatever.
Anyways, bro, does that look like crooked? Alright, it's alright. But this is the Jesus Wept podcast. It's the 4th episode now. And today's topic will be over relationships as teens. We're supposed to have Preston Larkin. That's how you say his last name, right? We're supposed to have Preston Larkin for our guest, but he couldn't make it today. So we got someone equally good. Introduce yourselves.
I'm JR, student intern.
I'm Alex, the rec minister at the Woodlands First Baptist.
All right, and today it might be a little funky, but
So the main reason we decided to have this topic is because I have a friend, and she had texted me and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna talk to you about so and so," and they had like a very very strong relationship, right? Or so I thought. Like they were like the couple that's always been together since like junior high, and then 11th grade it just like shut down, and she was just telling me things I had no idea about, like it being like a toxic relationship. So I was like, "Hey, Landon, like it'd be cool to like talk about like just teen relationship and like what like share our input on teen relationships."
all right, you gotta hold it a little closer next time. But anyways, so yeah, I had a few friends reach out too about like wanting to hear about relationships and how to have a Christian relationship as teens, and if I'm gonna give you my honest opinion, like from being in relationships in the past and stuff like that, we're gonna go a lot into it, but I just want to preface, and a lot of people probably aren't gonna listen to me, but it's probably just better to not be in a relationship as like teens, you know what I mean? And there can be a lot of good that comes from it, but a lot of times people tend to feed into the relationship more than their relationship with God. And what we should be focusing on more whenever we're teens and like going through high school and everything like that is we should be focusing on our relationship with Christ and trying to build that stronger, because we'll talk about it a little later on, but whenever we have that strong foundation with Christ, and we have that good relationship, then it sets everything else up. Like it sets us up to be able to be a good partner in a relationship. It sets us up to be able to like meet the right person and have good standards whenever we meet that person. Something's on my eye. Hold on. But
I mean, yeah, it makes a lot of sense because I think my like freshman year, I had a girlfriend, and like to be honest, I didn't know what I was like. I was just walking into that relationship like I had no goal. I was just like, oh, cool, I have a girlfriend. I'm in high school, whatever, So
yeah, and I don't know. Like I just feel like, especially nowadays, this current day and age, like it's really normalized. Like everything's sexual. So, and this isn't always the case, but a lot of the times, whenever we do get into a relationship with someone, it tends to be more about lust and less about love. And you may love that person, but it turns into a lot of lust. And then whenever you're not focusing on your relationship with Christ, it turns into a lot of like, it just brings you away, you know what I mean? And that's whenever the relationship tends to start failing and stuff like that. And, you know, I don't know. But like I want to go over like a little debrief like what Dev just did, like of our experiences with like relationships, because I feel like that'll give a better idea if we share some of like our stuff. And so, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I was in a long-term relationship like 2 years ago now. So I mean, so it's been a while since we broke up, and looking back, I've had a lot of time to grow over it and everything like that. And looking back, I've been able to realize the things that I was doing wrong and realize the places in the relationship where it was leading me away from God, you know. And all in all, the relationship led me closer to God because she was the one that introduced me to church, and she's the reason I started coming. But looking back at it, you know, like towards the end, whenever we got toxic and the reason we broke up, I was so far from God. I was not wanting to go to church for the right reasons. I was not wanting to I mean, like, just tons of bad stuff followed along with it because I wasn't putting God first in the relationship, and that's why it tended to fail, you know. And y'all, what are y'all's experiences? You know, I know y'all are. How old are you, Jr.?
I'm 23.
Yeah, so
23 as well.
yeah, so y'all are a lot older than us. Y'all have a lot more wisdom in this, so I figured y'all be perfect on here.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to preface it with we are no, relational gurus or anything like that. But I mean, we have like dated people before and kind of have an understanding of like what it means to like date and like kind of the standard and the reasoning why dating. And so like I think, I mean, my past is like I had a girlfriend and kind of same situation as you, kind of brought me to church and stuff, and so like God was able to move within it in a good way, But I think I was like my main reason for being in it was all the wrong reasons, and I think as we like dated, like that kind of showed on my end, of like if what were the desires of my heart and like why were the reasons that I was with this person started to show. And so like I think a big thing is like the standard on which you date, like what is the standard of dating, like like, and I think the culture can tell you it's this, and then I think when we follow Christ it's set to be another thing, and so it can be tricky just like being in the world and seeing so many people join into like relationships and things like that, and like seeing what it's based off of can be really tricky, and kind of like how do I like find what is the standard of relationship, and then like listen and follow in that way, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to go off of that, like, as a young adult, like, I'm not even going to say teenager, like, I think that's something we need to like get more comfortable with calling ourselves, people that are in high school, that you are a young adult and there's, expectations that are being put on y'all. There's a lot of like new things that are being introduced and they can seem exciting. And, when I was in high school, like that was when I had my first girlfriend, like junior year. And it was exciting because like we actually have, license that we can like drive, and we both, work, and so that we can actually pay for, taking each other out on dates. And so there's a lot of things that is part of that is exciting, and like we've mentioned, can draw you away from God, because you've like been so like engulfed in like this relationship, and it has like so much pull on you, and you don't even realize it in the moment because you're just like, oh yeah, this is fun, like I'm a kid still, and but I have all this power. So trying to find that balance of like I'm a young adult, and like I'm supposed to be doing stuff like in these formative years of making me who I am, but I've like became so like codependent with this person, and it's actually like hindered me because I have been so blind to it. And I think we can get into similar situations like Devron was mentioning, people that have just been in relationships for so long, and like this is all I've known, and now that crap hit the fan with this relationship, like I don't even know what to do with myself anymore because so much of myself was built off of this relationship and with this person being attached. Now I don't even know how to be like an individual, and like to have ideas like, well, yeah, you're actually supposed to be going to church and like figuring out like who God made you to be, and that you can like stand on your own 2 feet. And Paul mentions that like it's even better to like not be married so that you can like devote more time to God, like just to. And this was something that me and Jordan actually were talking about not too long ago, from First Corinthians chapter 7. Paul says that the time is short. From now on, those who have wives should live as if they do not, those who mourn as if they do not, those who are happy as if they were not, those who buy something as if it was not theirs to keep, those who use the things of the world as if not engrossed in them, for this world is in its present form passing away. And so it's not saying like, you're just not supposed to act like you're with this person that it's a that is your wife, but like in this context, like the person that you're dating, like obviously be a good boyfriend, be a good girlfriend to the person that you're dating, but um don't let that be like what makes you you, basically. Like
Mhm.
act as if you're not, like in the sense that like, yeah, we're dating, but I'm still Alex. Like I can tell you a lot about me that doesn't have so much like to do with this other person in my life.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me in my relationship. I'm sure a lot of other people, but like, dude, I didn't even have friends whenever I was like in my relationship. Like I didn't start getting close to like Dev and all them until after we had broke up, and I was like, it was such a hard breakup because it was like my entire like me was getting taken away. You know what I mean? Because that was what I built my life on. And that was like all I was focused on, and I was making that person like my personality in a sense. You know what I mean? And so like I think it's important, like what you're saying, like whenever you're in a relationship and whenever you're with somebody, if you're with somebody, then you need to still grow as a person and be yourself. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to combine the two so much.
Yeah, I think like our buddy has like introduced this kind of to us, and like it's one thing that kind of stuck with me is like having self differentiation, like being able to identify, like Alex was kind of saying, who you are and what you stand for and the things you believe and everything. Like even whenever like I guess like the things around you start to like shift, change, or like go up and down and like energy or whatever the case may be, like you are still able to stand on like this is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is what I do. And I think that all starts from having that foundation of like, what do I believe? And like being able to answer those questions. So like it's hard to go into a relationship when you don't know like what do you believe and why do you believe and how does it affect you? You know what I mean? Because then whenever again like you talk about the crap hits the fan, then it's like you have nothing to stand on. Therefore, you're easily like broken down. And there is nothing that like holds you back up. So as soon as the storm hits, your house comes like falling down, as opposed to if you took the time to build the foundation and understand like what you believe and why you believe it, like then your house like stands firm. And although it may not be fun, it may not be easy, like you're still able to stand and like work through that. And a part of that as well, like in relationships, is like understanding that you shouldn't probably take things that aren't yours, or like you should like honor somebody in the way that like the Lord honors them, or view them the way that like the Lord views them. Because a lot of times, again, with culture and the definition of like what a relationship is, a lot of times it's like you look good and I kind of look good and we enjoy like looking at each other, but it's not much deeper than that. So then when it is get to the point of like, okay, it's not just like eye candy anymore, and it's actually time to like, how much do I know this person? You have nothing to stand on, and therefore it gets rocky and shaky, as opposed to if you take the time to like get to know them and like see them the way the Lord sees them, and then you protect them and value them the way the Lord does. Like I think that causes for true growth and true like building of a foundation.
Yeah, I think like basically like what I got from that is like we need to know we need to build the foundation before we like for ourselves until we start trying to build up with somebody else. You know what I mean? Because as teens, like young adults, like we're trying to like we're growing. You know what I mean? And this is such a pivotal point in our life. Like I mean, the things you listen to, the things you do, the people you hang around, and like the activities you put yourself in, like it doesn't define the rest of your life, but it's a big turning factor because you're kind of setting yourself up for what you're gonna do after high school or what you're gonna do whenever like your time to like become an adult. You know what I mean? And so like I think building a foundation and a relationship with Christ before you even think about being in a relationship with somebody else is so important because if you don't have that foundation to begin with, then you're gonna have nothing to fall back on whenever things get hard. And in relationship things in relationship relationships, things are gonna be hard. I don't know why I just missed the S 2 times in a row, but things are gonna get hard. So like, no matter how healthy you are, like there's gonna be times whenever things get hard, and so whenever you don't have that foundation to fall back on to, like the foundation of Christ, you're it's most likely not gonna work out. And
Mhm.
I think whenever you do have that foundation built, though, the first step to like a successful relationship, and also, even if you do all the things, like the rest of this podcast, like even if we do all the right things, I feel like it's not a guarantee that you're gonna be with that person for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anyone watching that to be like, oh, if I listen to all of this, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm gonna be with this person. You know what I mean? But like, that's a possibility, but it's also, people grow apart. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't want there to be any confusion on that. But whenever you do have that foundation built with yourself, you know what I mean? I think it's important to know, like, whether or not what you're feeling for this person is love or lust. You know what I mean? And it gets really confusing, I feel like. Like, I have it written down right here. Biblical love is patience, kindness, humility, selfness, forgiveness, and endurance. You honor your partner and what's best for them. And when we don't give into our fleshly desires, we're honoring our partner and God. And so I feel like lust is the exact opposite of that. And sometimes we can lust for love, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've been experiencing that this past few months, if I'm being honest. Like, it's holiday season, and I'm seeing everybody with like their girlfriend or their boyfriend or whatever, and I'm like, dang, I want a relationship, like. And so I've been lusting to be in love with somebody. Like, there's nothing like, from what I've experienced, like falling in love with somebody is such a it's a great feeling, and sometimes it can get over romanticized whenever you're like, oh, I want this, you know what I mean? And so you really just got to take a step back, I feel like, and realize like, yo, like God's has a purpose for me. God's kind of making me grow more before I get into something, because if I'm not ready whenever I get into something, then it's just not going to last, and then it's going to come with hurt and pain and stuff like that, and it's just not going to like he's trying to protect us, you know what I mean? That's what I feel like, and whenever I'm like whenever I feel like God's making me wait for something, he's trying to protect us, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we definitely have to understand like God has a purpose for every season of our life. And just because, we see ourselves in this season of like, oh, I'm single, like I'm not being fulfilled, like, well, you're disregarding a lot of what God's trying to do in that season right then and there.
Mhm.
I think but talking about the love and lust, how would you guys describe uh, the definition of love for people y'all's age right now? Like, what's their idea of like, oh, you're in love when
Biblical or like secular?
yeah, I guess like just around like
What do y'all say?
in
Is like, what
school
have you heard love is?
and people that feel like, oh, I've found the one because of this.
I feel like they're like, oh, I'm in love. I haven't really heard anybody say like I'm in love. To be honest, I've heard people be like, "Oh yeah, I think she's the one because so and so." One of them is because like they're like, "Oh yeah, she doesn't cheat or she doesn't go out to parties or she doesn't hang out with this many amount of guys." And people are like, "Oh, I think I found the one." So maybe that probably.
Yeah, I think like I think love gets confused with as like a feeling a lot of times in art, and not that it's not a feeling. Like, you can feel love for somebody, but I feel like love is more of like just a thing, because whenever you love somebody, you can still be angry, or you can feel other emotions. So it's not like love is like an emotion, you know what I mean? It can be, but that in my opinion, I don't think so. Like, love, I feel like, is it gets confused in our generation a lot with like infatuation. Like, like it's this feeling you get from somebody, and you're like, oh, like I love this person, you know what I mean? Like, you hang out with them for the first time, and you're like, oh, this person's great, you know what I mean? Because like most people are, like if you get to know them a little bit, you know what I mean, like you're gonna like that person, you know. And so like, I mean, I just feel like love is confused a lot with like a feeling, and it's confused with infatuation in our generation, and leads more towards lust, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think like just a lot of times with like students, kids, even people our age in general, can fall into like an idea of what they think love is, but again, it comes back to like what is the standard of love, kind of, and where have you gotten your standard from? And I think a lot of times like people will just say like, a lot of times whenever they're choosing a partner, if you ask people, the first thing on their list is just like how good does somebody look,
Mm-hmm.
physical features and things like that. And again, like that so quickly fades away, when in your understanding of like, well, what is love? And and I think like when we talk about an idea of love and like the way Jesus has shown us like what love looks like it looks sacrificial, in a way. So yeah, you can come in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, come in. All right. Well, I'm
we
gonna
have
pass it
someone.
to Alex. So
All right, yeah, we got
I,
someone coming in.
I guess to go off of this idea of like what people know today as love is just infatuation, is actually a selfish love of like, what they're basically saying is, I love the way you make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like that sounds great, but that actually doesn't say a whole lot for the person you say you love. Because if you break down that phrase, I love the way you make me feel, you're still loving yourself through this person.
It's very selfish.
It's like you don't actually love this person as a person. You love what they do for you, what they provide for you, and the way they make you feel. And so, like, you really use people with this type of idea of like, oh yeah, like I'll keep this person around because I just keep telling them I love them. But it doesn't actually serve the purpose of what a loving relationship looks like, of a self-giving of one another. Um, yeah.
I also feel like at like for our age, to be honest, it's more like a lot of guys and like girls are like thinking, oh, I have to be with this person because he's popular, or he is the starting quarterback, or he is the star basketball player, like so and so. Like I feel like people hop into relationships just because of like the name, like, oh, I'm with the starting quarterback. It's not like they are like looking for a genuine connection with another person, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, about relationships like that too, they're always gonna fail. I feel like whenever you are just going after someone solely based off of how they make you feel, or how popular they are, or like the 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 status that they bring to you, like the attention they give to you, you know what I mean? Like whenever you start dating someone solely for the purpose of that, and you have no foundation with Christ or God, or it's gonna fail. Like there's no way to, because whenever things get hard, it's gonna turn toxic. And some people fall into like being stuck in toxic relationships for a long time. But you know, most of the time, like if you want a good relationship, being with someone for those purposes is never gonna work. And so I want to talk about one of the first questions we had, because I posted something on my story for what's called like questions y'all wanted to hear about on the podcast. And one of the ones we had was waiting for marriage, and how to wait for marriage, and why we should wait for marriage. And that's a big one. And I I kind of want to. I want to save that until Jr. gets in here. I want to save that until Jr. gets in here, because I think both of y'all here. I want both of y'all to hear that. But let's see. Um, talk it up real quick.
Um,
You can say
actually,
whatever.
no, I was actually thinking about that. I mean, I could talk a little bit about that before JR comes back, but I heard that like heard this thing about why you should wait till marriage. Like what it does is like waiting till marriage, it's like I feel like what's the word? I forgot, not whatever. But another thing I want to talk about is so I was I went car shopping because I finally got myself a truck, or my parents bought me a truck. As we're car shopping, it was my dad and mom's 29th year of being married. The anniversary was like a week or two ago, something like that. And while we were there, the my mom like had said something about like their anniversary coming up, and the man there was like, "Oh, what's the key to a strong marriage?" And what my mom told her or told him was like having trust in your partner or the person you're with. It's like you have to be able to have that trust and connection and be able to um what's the word? Be able to like trust that person no matter what, and you have to just I guess build that with that person.
Yeah, I think trust is a big thing, isn't it? Like, were you gonna
Yeah.
say something?
I don't know. I just when Devron was bringing up like looking for cars, I was like, is he gonna start saying you got to test drive something before you? Like, where's this going with talking about like waiting before marriage?
That's I was not even thinking about that. That's funny.
But
But I hear people
I
say
think
that all the time.
yeah. No,
Like,
that's the outlook of like, oh, we got to know we're compatible like in every way, and that includes physically. So like, let's do this, and then it actually brings like just more just hurt within the relationship because then it brings like a whole bunch of pressure. I feel like for like, well, now that we've done it, like this kind of has to be the one, like, and then it usually isn't. Just based off of like people I know and like their experience through it. Um, and but yeah, like yeah, obviously waiting for marriage, like because if you have like this crazy body count of like all these experiences you've had with other people, you've kind of built up like an expectation of like what you would want in your marriage.
mhm.
And whenever it's not going to be that and it doesn't live up to your expectations, you're actually going to be a very like, just, I don't know, like kind of unfulfilled, like, um, person through that. And
Mhm.
it's all going to be stuff that you brought on yourself. It's nothing to do with like your spouse, but like really just you have this idea like, oh, it's going to be like this, but no, like you actually have been committed to this person now, and this is what you've committed to for the rest of your life. So it's like,
Mhm.
um, whereas if you didn't have all that history, you're just glad to be with that person no matter what, and like what y'all have is what y'all have, and it's not so much a I know my, sex life to be something that I get stuff from these people, but like I mentioned earlier, like this relationship is a self giving of myself to this person, and her giving of herself to me, and like there's just a lot more of like a unity that is um, not like anything else, like not transactional of like I'll get what you get, and you get what I like. I don't know.
Yeah, I get
Trying
what you're
to
saying
explain what.
completely. I did like research on it because this is like something I've been saying for ever now. Like, um, whenever you like, the reason sex before marriage is such a big deal is because sex is like a very God made it to be a very intimate thing, and actually the science behind it, sex releases chemicals that bring y'all closer together whenever it happens. Like when it releases bonding chemicals. Like you can look it up online. Like it's a real thing. Like whenever that is happening, like you're releasing chemicals that make you bond with this person. And so whenever you're going and doing it with like a bunch of different people or stuff like that, you're releasing that with a bunch of different people, and
Mm,
it almost it decreases your ability to be able to connect with a person on a higher level.
yeah.
And it's actually that I've proof of that. This is what I was gonna wait for JR to be in here for, but I don't know how long he's gonna be gone. So but there's hundreds of studies done on this, but this one specific study that I wrote down, this is the numbers for that. But all of the other studies that I looked at matched up around the same thing. And it is that the more sexual partners you have, the less percentage of a happy marriage you are to have, you know? And they went around and they did a study on men and women, and they asked them like, are you happy in your marriage, and like how many sexual partners have you had? However they do the study, I don't actually know. But um for men with 0 to 1 partners in their entire life, whenever they were married, they had a 71% rate of being happy in that marriage. And granted, that sounds kind of low if I'm being honest.
Just
like,
passing.
yeah, like just 71%. That's crazy. And for women with 0 to 1 partners in their past, it was 64%. It's failing, but that's the highest it gets. Okay, that's the highest it gets. And then you go down the list,
It just drops off.
and it just drops all the way off. And I only wrote it down to 5. Okay, we'll just go down to 4. For men, it goes from 71% with 1 partner in your lifetime all the way down to 63% with 4 partners in your lifetime. For women, it goes from 64% with 0 to 1 partners in your lifetime all the way down to 54%. That 10% drop. And that kind of proves the point. Like, it really does affect your ability to be able to connect with somebody on a deeper level the more people you share that deep connection with. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what you're releasing, the bonding chemicals whenever that's going on, and you're bonding with multiple different people. And not only that,
And I think even if you have these deep, intimate relationships with these people, and they end up being relationships that you shouldn't be in, that like it affects though, like, because of it's such a core like part of that relationship. Anytime you have that same type of relationship with someone else, it's going to affect that present relationship based off of what happened in the previous one. Like, you're just going to associate the same action that I'm doing with this new person as something negative because I knew I was, like, it can affect the marriage that way of like, you had this um, like negative impact having sex with another partner in the past, and now that you're doing it with your spouse, it could like affect it that way because you're like being reminded of like, oh, I remember what this felt like with so and so, and that like brings up just awkward memories, and it's like that's not supposed to happen during that time. You're supposed to just enjoy like someone just tried to walk in, but yeah, no, it has a huge impact on the marriage you hope to have in the future.
because it's just like comparisons,
Yeah.
And maybe if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, whatever, I'll take the 64% chance, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Actually, for women, it drops all the way down to, oh, no, 54% chance. I'll take the 54% chance, or for men, I'll take the 60% chance, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. Well, these are the other cons of sex before marriage. I kind of did a little brainstorm, think about them. The relationship could not last, first of all, what we just talked about. It can lead to diseases. I'm sure nobody wants an STD or something like that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It lowers the happy marriage rate, like what we just talked about. And there's a risk of pregnancy. Like, even if you're being safe about it, there's always a risk of that happening. So there's just no point in taking that risk as a teen, because like you don't want to, bro. Let me just say, my parents had me whenever they were 16. Okay, so I'm a kid of a teen marriage, and dude, that you do not want that. Not that like my parents are bad people, not that I had like some terrible childhood growing up, but it could have been a lot better if they would have just waited. You know what I mean? Like,
or take me for example, like similar situation. My parents had me like pretty young. Like, I mean, I think about it, like where I'm at right now. If for them, like they would have already had, me like a 1 year old by the time, like, and that's just crazy because I'm like still trying to figure out being an adult, and I'm like I couldn't imagine having a kid right now. But they weren't even married when they, got pregnant with me, and so I was like kind of the reason they had to get married, and now they're divorced. So it's just like kind of plays into you know, it really does matter, like being able to understand like what you're fighting for, and like, yeah, I'm gonna have to like put away the desires of my flesh for like, you know wanting to have an actual healthy and happy marriage one day with this person. And it shows a lot more of how much you're willing to give by not selling out, too soon. Um, and I think that's just a really tough thing. Like you can preach that over and over, but it just goes against what everyone knows. Like you know what every cell in their body is telling them. Like you just want to be with that person and like experience that, but just being told like you have to keep waiting, and like it just seems so against like our human nature, but it's ultimately for our best. And yeah, science is catching up to prove that, but it's all stuff that has been written thousands of years ago in the Bible. Um,
Also, I feel like if you're with your partner and you feel like if that partner doesn't want to wait, or they're like, oh, I'm gonna leave because that's what they're wanting, I feel like that's just not a good relationship you should be in the first place. I feel like that's something, if you're in a relationship now, that you should just, I guess, talk about with your partner and let them know, like, oh, this is something I want to do. And if it's like something that they're not looking forward to in the future, just like a relationship, I think you should just like walk away from, because it just, at the end of the day, it just shows like how much you truly actually like that person, and if you like them for them, or if you like them for the sexual tension, basically, right? So I just feel like if you're able to just like from the beginning, or where you're at now, is really, hey, I think that we should just wait and not do this at a young age, then you just have a stronger and better relationship, because you want to have that genuine connection with that person, because like once you did it, like they both said, it's like you feel like, oh, I've already done it, whatever. Like I feel like us kids, like once you've done it, like once, it's like, I like whatever, it's over. Who's next, And I just feel like we shouldn't have that type of mindset. We should have the mindset like, oh, I'm gonna build this connection and really like this person for them, and not for what I'm seeing, like their body or whatever.
yeah, and I think it goes back to what we've already mentioned beforehand, is like that foundation. I gotta define these terms, like who am I, and what does a dating relationship for me look like, and what are the boundaries we're gonna set up in place, and like are we going to stick to that, and who's going to hold us accountable in this? And because you got to go into these things not like drifting into them, because I think even people my age, it's very common to be like, oh yeah, we've been dating all throughout college, and now that we both graduated, and we don't want to like live separately, like let's just go ahead and get married. Like you don't want to get married based off of it'd be a lot easier to just like live together and you know split rent 50-50 instead of have our own places. um, but yeah, that's just from someone in their 20s, like their perspective on, because that's the next step of like, okay, dating as an adult, where you could either like because of the economy, you basically have to have a roommate. That's why Jordan's my roommate. We're just two single guys trying to ball on a budget, but eventually we want to live with a spouse. And so like um that's just something that we know we're not going to just jump into, because like, oh, we need this right now. And yeah. What's up, Larry? um yeah, like this whole like I mentioned, you got to show like how much you're willing to buy in, of like your how serious you are about something, by not selling out too soon.
Yeah, you really want to like saving yourself with a partner. You're really focusing more on getting to know this person's personality and like the type of person they are, and actually getting to know them than just like getting to know them for their body or being with them for their body, you know. And it says, like, because you said earlier, it's been saying it for thousands of years in the Bible. And First Thessalonians, I think that's how you say it. First
Thessalonians.
Thessalonians 4, chapter 3, chapter 4, verse 3. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality. And I want to point out, because this is something I noticed whenever I was going through here. It says, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality. And it reminded me, like in sports, I've always done this prayer. We've done it in church before, and it's the Lord's Prayer. I'm pretty sure that's
Your will be
Matthew
done.
6 verses 9 through 13. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have also have forgiven our debtors. And like, I feel like almost anyone that's played a sport has said that prayer before. And it's like, I feel like a lot of the times you don't really understand what you're saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just going through a routine before a game, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, you're praying to God. Like, yeah, like, let's get pumped up. Like, God, help us win, you know what I mean? But like, actually listen to like what it's saying. Like, in here it says, your will be done. And we're praying that it's God's will over ours. Like, we're putting God's wants and the path God has for us over the path we want to take, or we might want to take, you know what I mean? And like the things we might want to do that don't align, you know what I mean? We're saying, God, I trust you and your will over mine, you know what I mean? And in this verse, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality. And I just want to point out, like, that's not just like the act of actually having sex. Like, that's anything. Like, that's hand stuff, or like anything else. Like, dude, like all of that. You know what I mean? And and we probably should have put a sign on the door, like the podcast in motion. You know what I mean? But
we're humble beginnings.
yeah, yeah. I just think it's like, it's really important. You know what I mean? And this kind of leads into the next thing. The next question that I had was opinions on nudes. We're gonna get all the sexual stuff out of the way so we can just, you know what I mean. But yeah, this is just gonna be real quick. That kind of like ties in with everything else. No, like, you know what I mean, because like that can lead to sexual immortality. It almost always will. You know what I mean? And
it's just sexual immorality. Immortality means like you know, if you're immortal is basically what you're saying. But
so I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
It's moral, like immorality. Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
But you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, whenever you do that, it leads to that, and you're building your foundation on worldly things like lust and like stuff like that, and you're not building the relationship on God, you know what I mean? And God is the strongest foundation that we can build anything on, not just relationships, like anything. If we build it with the foundation of God, that's the strongest foundation we can have. And that's because, like, whenever you build a foundation with God in a relationship, for example, it is important because it teaches us good morals, it teaches us forgiveness, teaches us unselfishness, and how to love correctly. You know what I mean? Like, following Christ will, like, pouring Christ and having a relationship with him. I've been saying it this whole time, but like, it's so true. Whenever you do that, it will lead and help build into everything else. Everything else will follow after if you are able to put him first, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
And
mean
build
that's why
everything
he
else.
said like the greatest commandments is first to love the Lord your God, and then second is to love your neighbor. Like there's a reason he says those in that order, because it's hard to love your neighbor when you don't see him the way God sees them and how you see God, and like just every relationship how it's meant to work the way it's supposed to, the way God intended. And so when you fix that first, loving the Lord your God, it makes loving your neighbor that much easier. But
Yeah, and you know, a lot of things I've heard from people my age is like, yeah, like I hear you, you know what I mean? Like that's what we need to do, but like, how do I do that? You know, like how do I how do I build that foundation through Christ in a relationship? You know, and you need to, like, the first step you need to take is you need to be open and direct about your beliefs. You know what I mean? You don't want to beat around the bush. Like God says, if you deny me before others, you know, I will deny you before my Father. Am I right?
yeah,
That's what he says. I thought I was a little off
no,
around
yeah,
the
that
lines,
that was
but
good.
and so like, if we aren't even able to tell a person that we are looking to be in a relationship with our beliefs, then like, how strong really are those beliefs? You know what I mean? Like, we need
Yeah,
to be open. The first step, we need to be open and upfront about our beliefs and tell them. You know what I mean? And the next step, like, this is if like the person also agrees with the beliefs. You know what I mean? Which we'll go in later if they don't. You know what I mean? But uh, the next step is like pray together or do Bible study together, or like just put God before each other, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, like what you were talking about earlier. We still need to be our own people whenever we're in this relationship. So whenever you get into a relationship, you can't just be like, all right, God, thanks, you know what I mean? Like, thanks for setting me up, you know what I mean? Like, no, you need to continue building your relationship with Christ and then build a relationship with Christ together, you know what I mean?
But that seems to be the moments when we forget about God, when life is going good, we don't have any prayer requests, so I don't have to pray to God. But it's like then whenever we realize, whenever it catches up to us, of like, oh gosh, like life's getting harder, and like I realize I haven't read my Bible, or haven't really been trusting God that much. It starts to catch up with you. But yeah, it's tough to like also be faithful in those highs of like, I've got this great relationship with this godly girl, and then you start to realize I'm worshiping her a little bit more than I am God, and like trying, like justifying it because she is a godly girl, and like we do like church stuff together. And so it's like, you just start to justify things when I'm still missing the mark. I'm still not putting God first. I'm not having a direct line relationship with him. um but yeah, I think
Yeah,
those are always things. We're human, we're going to stray from it, because it's just bottom line. Bottom line is just hard to worship a God you can't see, like. And so you look to the thing you can see, and you just latch onto that.
yeah, I think it's important to make sure that you and your partner, like, this is gonna sound so bad the way I like put it, like I'm about to put it. Now it won't even sound bad to some people, it might, but you need to you and your partner need to love God more than you love each other, you know, because that will allow you to put God before the other person. And God is the most important relationship we'll ever have in this lifetime. Like, the relationships we have on here are like this. Like, they're this small. You know what I mean? This is the time span that we'll have. The relationship with God and eternity with Him, if we build a relationship with Him, and put our trust in him is forever, like, so the most important thing is that you and your partner love God more than you love each other. You know what I mean? Hold on. I was not ready to that awkward silence, but like, okay, so why is it important that y'all love God more than you love each other? And it's important because whenever you love and live for God, it transforms you into a person ready and capable for that relationship. Like what we've been talking about this whole time. Whenever you put God first, and whenever you have that like foundation and relationship with Him, then everything else will build on top of it. I've said that like 6 times now, but it's so true.
To give explanation for, I guess, the awkward silence, I was trying to, the topic you were bringing up of like, loving God more than, the person that you say you love.
Mm-hmm.
It made me think of this verse, Luke chapter 14, verse 26. In the ESV, it says, if Jesus speaking, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father or mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. It's like, wow, that's very brutally honest, like from Jesus saying, if you want to be my disciple, my follower, you must hate all these people, that you. But what he's getting at is something that this was like a comparison that is written all throughout the Bible of, like you see this like even in Genesis, where God says like the two brothers, Jacob and Esau, like Jacob I loved, Esau I hated. Like, no, he didn't hate Esau, but it was just his love for Jacob seemed like hate. And so in this example that Jesus is getting at, like your love and devotion to God should look like you put everyone else second, like they, like even yourself, even everything that you want for yourself, like should come second, and it should look like hate. That's how much you love me.
I get
And
what you're saying now. I was kind of
it's
lost there for a second. I
yeah,
was
no,
like,
it like, and that's, you got to have context when you read like stuff, because stuff that Jesus was just saying, at face value, you can think
yeah,
like,
you'd be like,
what?
what?
Like that doesn't sound like Jesus, but like it's just crazy. Like, he used a lot of just like hyperbole, sort of like just this exaggeration of like like his point. Like obviously, he says if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Like obviously, like by now I wouldn't have hands or any limbs left, but like
Mhm.
but it was just, he was trying to drive home this point of like what is expected of like Jesus' followers, of like this, people will know you are my disciples by these ways, by following me. And just, it shows how much God like craves like our relationship with him, that is like everything else doesn't need to like hold a candle to what you have with me, like
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
it's yeah.
that's actually, I had never even heard that before. Like, it's kind of cool. Like,
They're all good phases.
I feel like there's just arrows like pointing up, like here,
yeah,
open this
like
door.
come open this door.
And
You
there's
know,
like, just leave.
but yeah, I think that like I've tried to I've noticed that a lot because the first book I ever read in the Bible was Matthew, and so I noticed like, dang, like Jesus speaks in a lot of like figurative language. You know what I mean? Like
No.
he really
And
does.
people
Like,
that say I take the Bible literally, like, well, like
yeah, like
explain that, like,
yeah,
but
but
there's
that that's actually a really good example. Like you need to put God first so much that like it seems like nothing else even matters to you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but
Um, the next page is about being equally yoked, and that's so crazy because my mom, oh my goodness, I don't like, she's told me this so many times at one point I just thought like, oh my gosh, like, is my mom the only person that just tells me this all the time? She's always like, oh, to me and my sister, make sure if you find a partner, make sure that you and that person are equally yoked. And what that means is you and your partner gotta be on the same page, both spirit. Hold on, spirit. Wait, how do you say it? Oh my gosh.
Spiritually.
There you go. Like on the same page. And it's like when you are, it's like you're able to have a stronger relationship with that person if y'all are both on the same page. And I feel like that's like Landon said earlier, like you have to be able to like be to say to your partner, hey, this is what I believe and this is what I want to do, and be able to share that with your partner from the beginning. You can't be like, oh, I'll tell them on the long run, or I'll just wait till this time, because you'll never ever have that, I guess, perfect moment to just let them know like what you believe. And it's cool to just be on the same page from the beginning.
Yeah. I have it written down in here. Like Dev gave a perfect explanation. Like equally yoked. That means y'all are on the same page about your spiritual beliefs and like on the same page about most things. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, and y'all should have the same goals in mind and try to, strive to reach those together and
mhm.
push each other towards that.
Yeah, because whenever you're equally yoked, it's important because it helps you build off of each other so much more, and that's such a big part, at least from what I've learned. I mean, I'm 15, so like I don't know, but like I feel like that's such a big part in relationships, is like being able to build off of each other and being able to grow together, because that's what that's what will make a relationship good, if you're able to grow together and not grow apart. You know what I mean? And I have it written down in here. Like back then, like where this term equal yoke comes from. Back then, donkeys plowed the fields, and the thing that connected the two donkeys to the plow was called a yoke. Okay? If one was weaker than the other, then the other one would have twice as much work, making it harder for them to plow. And it translates perfectly into like a relationship. Like if one of you is not equally yoked, then you're the person, like say you're the one with the yoke, you're the one with those spiritual beliefs, you know what I mean? And the thing is, like the reason it's so important is because as Christians, or not even as Christians, as followers of Jesus, you know what I mean, whenever we love somebody, we want to bring them to Christ, you know what I mean? Like we want to bring everybody we can. I saw this thing the other day, I loved it so much. It said that there's something along the lines of like, the only thing that we can bring with us after this life is other people. And that's so crazy. Like it really is. I mean, that's part of the reason why me and Dev started this podcast, because we want to not only be able to help ourselves and each other, but we want to be able to help other people too, because that's the only thing we can bring with us whenever we leave this world, is other people. And so whenever whenever you like somebody and you want to be in a relationship with this person, blah blah blah, like you are going to want to bring this person, you're going to want to share your beliefs with them and show them the love of Jesus, and you're going to want them to be able to be with you whenever like we eventually pass away. And so whenever you're not equally yoked, you're going to be pouring into this person, you're going to be pouring into this person. And I got these two cups for a demonstration.
Oh, I've been drinking out of
No,
one.
it's fine. There's plenty of water.
Okay.
But like, so this is the person, this cup right here. This is the person that you want to be in a relationship with. This is the person that does not share the same spiritual beliefs as you. Okay? And this is you. This is you wanting to bring this person into Christianity, bring this person into and show them the love of Jesus, you know what I mean?
You're trying to flirt to convert.
And so whenever you're whenever you're pouring into them, okay? You're pouring, you know what I mean? Like you bring up a conversation or something, you know what I mean? You're not getting anything back. You're just pouring into them, okay? You're pouring. And also, I can't give a like representation of it, but as you're pouring, slowly some of this water is coming out. You know what I mean? It's not sticking with them. Okay, and then you're pouring, and then you're pouring, and eventually your cup's empty, and then all of a sudden it's like, yo, um, I don't have that same passion for Christ that I used to, you know what I mean? Like, because you're pouring into this person, not receiving anything back. You're not receiving any of the uh like you're not building off of each
It's
other,
like
you know
any
what I mean?
time you were hoping that this spiritual conversation would build each other up, you just feel like I'm like speaking into a wall, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it does you no good. And that was, something you were hoping, like, oh man, it would be great if I had a girl that, we could just have theological conversation and talk about the Bible and, what I could be praying for her for and whatever the case may be. And like, feel as if, we're on the right track here. We're doing God's will. Like, and our relationship isn't just a surface level, but it actually means something as far
Mm-hmm.
as like who we are as individuals and who we're trying to be.
Yeah, like I don't know. I have it down on here. Another example. It says in Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I just want to make that connection. It says, as iron sharpens iron. It doesn't say as iron sharpens gold or as iron sharpens what's another
Plastic or wood or
plastic. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
like
So like it that's it you can compare that to being equally yoked. Whenever you are equally yoked, you're sharpening each other. You are building each other up. You know what I mean? But whenever you're not equally yoked, you're almost just kind of like tearing yourself down. You know what I mean? And I want to preface like whenever I'm not saying don't go try and spread and pour out into someone else. Like I'm not saying don't pour into another person. Like no, we should all as followers of Jesus be pouring into everyone we meet. Like we should be trying to spread Jesus to everybody. But what I'm saying is don't be in a relationship that is taking from you and that is like don't be in a unequally yoked relationship because that will take from you. It's a different type of relationship.
yeah,
Is
and
basically what I'm trying to say.
because you can't look at your dating relationship as your mission field. This is supposed to be like a life giving relationship of
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, we, like we've mentioned, build each other up, and but how much are you going to be built up in this relationship if you're just like speaking words that are falling on deaf ears, like
Mm-hmm.
it just does no good for that person or for yourself. And so yeah, it's much better to be like both on the same page as far as like what y'all are talking about. But
Yeah, I mean, we can only do so much. Like, we can't get stuck on trying to. We can't be stuck on trying. Yeah, we're about to end it.
People are about to be filled up.
Yes. All right, we gotta end this soon, which is perfect because we're about done. But we can't get stuck on trying to change someone. Like you can try at the beginning of the relationship, you can not change them. You can try to pour into them to see the effect that has on them. You know what I mean? But you can't be stuck on trying to change someone. You can't stay with the person and be like, oh well, like maybe like eventually. You know what I mean? But um, but really, all we can do is plant the seeds and leave the rest to God. You know what I mean? Like, plant the seeds, share the word, like, share what we're doing, like, share the love of Jesus, and just leave the rest to God because that's all we really can do. You can't make up anybody's mind. You can't go in there and be like, switch. You know what I mean? Like, no, like, you gotta, like, just leave the rest to God. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Just the last thing before we leave. But I was thinking about it for a week now, and I was like thinking about like what is a key thing for us teens in a relationship. I think we need to ask yourself, or what you need to do before you even try to hop into a relationship, is you need to have self love and be in a good like state of mind, and be like in a good mental state before you even try to hop into a relationship. So if you're about to start talking to someone, or you're about to start dating someone, ask yourself, like, do I love myself first? Because if you don't, then that's when like insecurities come in, and when you're dating that person, it becomes a toxic relationship, stuff like that. So I feel like as us young adults, we need to learn how to have self love and be in a good mental state before we even try to talk or date anyone.
That was money. No, we talked about that on the one of the other podcasts, and it's so true. You can't love somebody else until you love yourself, man. Like it's so true. That's such a big thing. Like go watch the second episode.
The best way you find love for yourself is loving God, because God's going to tell you how much. Yeah, so just wanted to clarify, because if you think, I'm going to try loving myself by just looking in the mirror, you're going to see all the imperfections and like not who God actually calls you to be, and you're only going to fall short, and it's going to have the negative effect. But if you have a mindset that I'm going to love God and like seek this relationship first, then he's going to tell you like how much he loves you by sending his son to die on the cross for you. Like being able to witness God's love throughout the scripture is really going to help paint that picture for you, and that's where you're going to have that self-love. Like just want to make sure we're as far as like step by step, like
I think you
like
explained
defining
perfectly.
what self-love like as a Christian means. Because I think in the world, like self-love means like, oh, I'm just going to treat myself and like build myself up. Like, well, how does that really happen? Like, because you're really just sowing seeds of like the flesh, and scripture says that sowing seeds of the flesh is going to lead to destruction, whereas sowing seeds of the spirit is going to lead to eternal life. So I think that's what if you had to decide destruction or eternal life, people would want eternal life. But but it was good. I was glad to be part of it, and I know Jordan wishes he could have been part of most of it, but yeah, this was cool.
Yeah, I think that's perfect way to end it on. I think you explained that perfectly. I'm glad y'all got to come on. I think y'all.
Yeah, we had no idea we were going to be part of this until like minutes before it started.
Yeah, I called them up like 10 minutes before it started, and told them that they were going to be on, and they didn't even know the topic till they walked in the room. So I think this is really good. Yeah, I want to say come to the Woodlands first. We say this every episode. Come to the Woodlands first. We'd love to have you. Every Sunday and Wednesday, you know what I mean. We're here on Wednesday night right now. If you need a ride, text me. If you're friends with Dev, text Dev. Maybe Dev can hook you up on it. Every time. No, I'll just. All right. But yeah. Also, if you need anything, if you have any questions about anything we talked about, or if you just want someone to talk to, you know what I mean. If you want some guidance or anything, me and Dev's Instagram will be in the bio, or what's it called, the Jesus Wept podcast Instagram will also be in the bio, so you can text that one too, or just hit us up anywhere. You know what I mean? We're here for any one of y'all. We really want to help, and I hope this podcast was helpful to anyone that watched it this far. Hopefully you watched it this far. I think this was a really good episode. And yeah.
All right, cool.
Hey, you know how we gotta end it? Yeah. Hold on. Yup. Hey, it was alright. It was alright. But peace.
Shout out cameraman behind us.
Yeah.
Great job.
Alright, and that's it for the podcast today. You know what I mean? We're gonna see y'all Sunday.